Hi, Nigel here with the Drivewire, and this is the Audi Q5 Sportback. Now, these days, with crossovers and SUVs being so popular, manufacturers like to create coupe versions from these by basically trimming some off the roof line to make them look more stylish. Now, this obviously has a downside in that you get a little bit less space, but in the case of this car, it's same pace, less space. So with this Q5 Sportback, Audi is taking aim squarely at the likes of the BMW X4 and the Mercedes GLC. And I think in the looks department, the Audi's a winner, but it's still not my favorite look. I think I would prefer to go for something which is more like a wagon. So unique to the Sportback is that the S-Line package is pretty much standard across the range, at least it is in the US, and that includes this unique egg crate pattern within this single octagonal grille, a new front diffuser design, and then obviously matching the Q5, these new really cool LED headlights. So looking from everywhere from below the window line, it's pretty much a Q5, and then you get these slightly narrower windows as the roof slowly slopes towards the back. So business on the bottom, party on the top. At the back, you get these unique to the Sportback OLED tail lamps, a newly designed rear diffuser. Doesn't look a whole lot different, but it definitely is. And of course, then the sloping back of the tailgate, which really only makes any difference to the space that's inside, but not as much as you might think. So opening up the powered tailgate, which you get as standard on this Prestige model, you get about 24.7 cubic feet of space before you put the seats down, which is surprising because the regular Q5 only has 1 cubic foot more, and then if you put these down, you get 52 cubic feet of space, and that's only 1 more cubic foot than you get with the regular Q5. But what you do get in the Q5 that you lose here is a distinct lack of headroom if I put this tailgate down. I'm not going to do that because it's going to squish my head. So your dog is the only one that's really going to suffer in the back of this car. A couple of little pieces of storage space in each side with these nets. And then under here is a very, very skinny 195/75/18 spare wheel. It's better than nothing. Putting the seats down is a pretty simple operation, as long as you don't have these seats in the way. It's not particularly flat floor, it's a bit of a slope up here, but it's got enough utility for most people. So even though this is a Quattro and technically it has all-wheel drive, the front wheels are powered for most of the time unless the Audi's Ultra all-wheel drive disengagement technology kicks in, and then power can be transferred to the rear wheels when needed in around 250 milliseconds. This, they say, creates less resistance and better fuel economy for the car. Really, you don't need all-wheel drive all the time, so why not just drive the fronts? Makes sense to me. So this one is a Prestige model, so every box is checked on this particular one, and these prices start $6,800 higher than the equivalent Q5. So it's quite a high price to pay for being stylish. So under the hood is Audi's 2.0 turbocharged 4-cylinder engine with 261 horsepower, 273 foot-pounds of torque, driven through a 7-speed DSG transmission. Sadly, Audi doesn't offer the plug-in hybrid version of this in the Sportback. You can only get it in the Q5. And that's a shame because that one is actually quicker than the SQ5. It has 8 horsepower more than the SQ5 with 362 and 369 foot-pounds of torque, and is actually a shade quicker from 0 to 60. Meanwhile, back to this one, this will do 0 to 60 in a little bit under 6 seconds. So it's decently quick. It's not fast. So surprisingly, in the back, the headroom's okay. Well, at least it is for me. You can see the roof sloping slowly back, so maybe taller people would have a bit of an issue. This seat's pretty much all the way back, but I have adequate legroom in here. Little net there to store stuff, and then these seats get heated, 12 volt and a couple of USBs, and you can also pull this down. A couple of cup holders that came out, nice little mechanism. It's all pretty good quality, as you'd expect from an Audi. These seats are leather, except this is a piece of plastic, which is, I don't know, for this kind of money, I would expect the whole thing to be leather, but it isn't. You also get these nice window shades here, manual shades that you can put up for when it gets a little bit too warm in the back. Not a bad place to be. So as you'd expect, it's very nice in the front of this Audi Q5 Sportback, and in most cases every Audi is the same way. The quality, it's very stylish, it's quite restrained, it's quite simple, it's not cluttered. It's a really very nice place to be. The seats are excellent. These obviously are leather covered, full power for both the driver and the passenger. And I've tried really hard to find scratchy plastic on this car, and the only place I can find it is on the back of the seat, which I really don't care about. Everything else is beautifully made. For Audi's infotainment system, it's a 10.1 inch screen. It's a touch screen, so the rotary controller has gone. A little bit of a shame. You can control most things from the steering wheel, and then below that there's this glorious physical climate control button, which I love. You've got the really nicely made controllers right here, heated and cooled seats on this Prestige model. AC on as you approach them, as you touch them with your finger. They sort of show a little bit more information as well. You've got your recirc and all your information. It's super easy to use. Don't really need to take your eyes off the road to use it. And then right here is the central screen, and you can swipe through and you can see what's playing, what's on your telephone, or you can search using maps, and then you can go into the radio, media, phone, etc. You can also go into vehicle settings, gives you another menu. It's not the fastest version I've come across. And then you've got different sorts of driver assistance modules. You can do lights, where you can change your exterior lighting. You can change your interior lighting, and you can turn on and off the rain sensor. It's pretty easy to use. A nice little click when you touch that. Now you can select the Audi Drive Select. There's a physical button down below. I have this set to individual, so when there's a pencil showing and you're not moving, you can click on that. I have it set to drive is sport and steering is sport. Again, as I said before, it's not a sports vehicle, so it doesn't really make a whole lot of difference. You could go balanced or comfortable on either of those. It's also got off-road, comfort, auto, dynamic. If you choose off-road mode, then it does turn off the traction control, which is pretty standard for these types of systems. Other than that, it really is pretty easy to use. You've got different settings in here. You can add users, you can add connected devices. This one's got Apple CarPlay, Android Auto as standard. This one also comes with a head-up display. You can't see that, but the little controller knob to the left of the steering wheel just feels quality as well. Audi does these things right. And then directly below the AC HVAC is your Drive Select, where you can do the same thing that you can on the main screen. Stop, start, on and off, traction control, on or off, park assist right here, hill descent control, and then that turns off the infotainment screen, and a blank button for I have no idea what. And directly below those controls, you've got your stop, start, a space for something, I'm not sure what, because when you put your phone in, and I have just a regular iPhone 12, that's as far as it goes, so that isn't a whole lot of use. So one thing that I don't like about it is this piano black. It shows up any little scratch. It just gets fingerprints on it. It doesn't work for me. Up ahead of the gear shifter is a small storage bin. It doesn't really fit a phone, so the problem is that you have to pretty much keep it on the charger, which basically makes your phone hot after a while. There really isn't anywhere else other than the charger to put your phone. Standard Audi shifter, and then your physical volume button. Take note, Volkswagen. A strange little thing here. I usually put the key in there. It makes it a little bit easier. So if you lift up the armrest, you'll notice there's a little bit of storage space behind it and a quicker USB-C So the Wi-Fi charger is really quite cool because you can have it charging on here, or you can move it out of the way. It still continues to charge. That reveals 2 cup holders. And these cup holders aren't just any old cup holders. They will actually cool or heat your drink depending on which side you put it on. So on the driver's side, on the left-hand side, there's a button with a little icicle on it, and you can keep your drink cool. And on the right-hand side, there's another button for heat, and you can keep your drink hot. I think that's a really cool feature. So directly ahead of the driver, you got the virtual cockpit. It's great. You can change a whole bunch of things. There's a little rotary wheel on the left-hand side, so I have it set to date and time. But if you basically scroll through these, consumption 17.1, it's not very good. Been hammering it quite a lot. Air conditioning, consumption, driver assistance, traffic signs, speed limit, etc. Or you can go ahead and you can move to the left and add maps onto here. Or you can do calls, what you're playing, and back to date and time. But if you go ahead and move to maps, you can then scroll and zoom in. Really cool. And then you can hit the view button and you can make the dials on the left and right smaller, tachometer and the speedo, and then your fuel gauge stays on the left hand side. Really cool graphics. And then if you go through here, you can change a whole bunch of things. Hit view again, it goes back to where it was before. As ever, it's superb quality. All right, so only one thing left to do, which is to go ahead and drive this car. Now, I do have it set up in sport mode, so both drive and steering are in the sportiest settings. Let's see how it goes. As I mentioned earlier, there is an off-road mode, and I'm sort of off-road right now, as you can see. Sort of bouncing around a little bit, but I'm not going to bother putting it in off-road mode because it's just a short trip to the actual paved road up there. This is not a car that I would want to really take off-road. We did try with a VW Tiguan a few months ago, and we got it to a certain point and it wouldn't go any further, and it wasn't even really a very tricky off-road stretch of road. So we'll not bother with this $60,000 Audi because I don't want to get it stuck. All right, so shift the lever into S. So now we're in the most sporty possible mode. A couple of things, it's very quiet. At idle, this engine sounds very typically VW. This one is very quiet. You can obviously hear it right now. In sport mode, it's got more aggressive shifts. It holds its revs longer. Essentially, this is a front drive vehicle, even though it uses the Quattro system. It's not a permanent all-wheel drive system. The system decides whether the rear needs power or not. And actually, you know, around these initial tight turns, I mean, it feels pretty good. It turns in really well. There's a little bit of body roll. The engine's got plenty of power for what you need. Obviously, if you need more power, get the SQ5. But this is, so far, a pretty nice drive. And then the other thing you feel is it's very, very comfortable, even in the sportiest settings. So it's not gonna give you a quick visit to the chiropractor. I've driven some BMWs and they've had a real flinty ride, and especially as a passenger, they haven't been that comfortable. Audi's done a really good job of this. They're not trying to make it into a track day car, which it clearly isn't. Even the SQ5 isn't. It rides soft, it's nice, it's sporty, but it's not uncomfortable. I'm really happy by the way that it handles. I like the steering. There isn't a lot of feel through the steering, but you don't feel any understeer. You feel like it just goes, and it masks its speed. Like some cars mask their speed. Obviously, you sit up high, and suddenly we're doing a lot higher than we probably should be at this point. Now we're getting onto some sort of rougher pavement. Now the suspension is soft and there is a little bounciness, but it's all very well, beautifully controlled. And it gets a move on. 0 to 60 is going to be around 5.7 seconds. That's according to Audi. I could well believe it. This same engine in the Audi A4 was a lot faster than I expected. And then once you get back into the turns again, it's really nice. It really is. But you can definitely hustle this if you need to, but at the same time, you're comfortable doing it. Now, the fact that Audi won't let you have this one in the plug-in hybrid version is a bit of a miss, because that hybrid one is as I said, actually quicker than the SQ5 from 0 to 60. The SQ5 is around just a shade under 5 seconds, whereas the hybrid version will do it in 4.5. And obviously you get slightly better fuel economy. Not the best. It's not a Prius Prime in terms of fuel economy, and you only get 19 miles of actual electric-only range. It's got ample acceleration to be able to pass slower vehicles. It doesn't seem to, just like in the A4 that I drove, there doesn't seem to be as much lag as there normally is. Just got finished driving the new Golf GTI, and there was some lag. In fact, when you were coming to pass somebody and you put your foot down, it sort of went, and then it went. It's like, I don't need that. I need those milliseconds of time to pass somebody. I don't want to be waiting for this car to decide whether it's going to go or not. This seems to not suffer as well, and it's probably something to do with the 12-volt electric system, which takes up the slack where you get that turbo lag. Impressed so far though with this car. It handles nicely. Obviously you can't plow into a turn too fast, otherwise you're going to be in a sticky situation. But this partial quattro drive system does really good. All right, so I've pulled over here because I want to test this from 0 to 60. I've got my specialized timing equipment box set up. It looks like it's picking up satellite. I'm going to try a 0 to 60 here. This road is kind of about the flattest one I can find around here. It does go uphill a little bit, so we'll have to give it a break if it doesn't make it to the manufacturer's claimed 5.7 seconds to 60. All right, so I've got the traction control off, the AC off. I've got it in S mode, individual. I think we're ready to go. So if I put my left foot on the brake here and give it some gas. Savage shifts. All right, 5.9 seconds. Now that was slightly uphill. I mean, I could have another couple of goes, but I'm not going to. So 5.9 seconds, 0.2 of a second off on a slightly uphill line. I think that's good enough. All right, so what do we think? Well, the Audi Q5 Sportback is a class act. I mean, it's beautifully made inside. It looks really cool. It's stylish. The engine has ample power. The transmission works great. It's very fuel efficient. Steering is great. Brakes are great. I can't really fault it. So what's the reason why I would not buy one of these? Well, I'll tell you what I'd do. I'd sell one of my kidneys and buy an Audi A6 all-road. All right, thanks for watching. Appreciate it. Please like, subscribe. We'll catch you next time.